mobility and migration management in South Africa. Today's launch of the ETA represents a quantum leap forward for our country's immigration system, both by unlocking economic growth through tourism, investment, and legitimate travel, and by landing a decisive blow against visa fraud and illegal immigration. Mr. President, allow me to briefly introduce some of the ETA's key features on both the economic and security fronts. The process begins by a traveller registering a profile on the website eta.dha.gov.za, which includes one-time PIN verification of their cell phone number and email address. The traveller then scans their passport and uploads a selfie. Through biometric technology, our platform compares their passport photo to their facial photograph, confirming that they are the same person. The algorithm also automatically scans their passport, checking over 40 different parameters to verify that it is an authentic document. Once payment has been made, the ETA uses automated risk analysis to identify indicators of fraud or risk at a speed and scale that no human being could ever achieve. If the application is approved, the traveller will receive their ETA within 24 hours, which they can then store directly in the digital wallet on their smartphone. I think it's worth acknowledging the scale of the shift from those delays we've seen over so many years to something where we commit to turnaround time of 24 hours. Once an approved traveller arrives at the immigration counter, they are again required to look into a camera where biometric verification enables us to confirm that the person standing at our border is the same person who received authorization to travel to our country.
All right, let's stay with the story and speak to BMA Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato. Good evening to you, Doc, and thank you so much for your time. Listening to the minister speak there, quite interesting just to hear how technology is now coming into the fray. It's something that you've been talking about for quite some time, but perhaps let's start with how fast and how far does this go to assist you when it comes to the work that needs to be done?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Bongiwe, and we really appreciate this opportunity as the Border Management Authority. Yes, Bongiwe, this is a game changer in as far as border management is concerned. If we can maybe just indicate that the previous mechanisms, as you will know, it has been a bit of a challenge in terms of people applying for visas, the processes that had to be undertaken, mainly by people having to look through a number of papers and make determination about people having to be given those visas or not, and all of that. But the most critical part in the front end, and that is the area where we operate from as the Border Management Authority, is the fact that when the people arrive at the front end, we had to do some kind of manual verification of the legitimacy of those visas and all of that. And in certain instances, as you know, we were confronted with a lot of fraudulent visas and all of that. But what ETA is basically now doing is that we then have a process wherein everything is automated. The people apply, as the minister had indicated in the clip. They make an application, and then basically they take their face as a facial recognition mechanism, and also they take a picture of their passport so that there is that bit of comparison in the back end. And of course, the AI in the system is able to do the verification of the individual and all of that. The good thing is when the person then arrives at the port of entry, the first thing the person does is basically just to look at the camera, and then through that facial recognition, the system is able to populate in terms of the entire biographic data of that individual, and ultimately that is verified against the passport, and on that basis the person is basically given authorization to enter the Republic. So that is basically the essence, and for us as the Border Management Authority, is a game changer in the front end.
And given the concerns that we've seen as far as corruption in the system is concerned, and I see that there's a view here that it minimizes human error, but how far does it go to make sure that the system is foolproof as far as corruption is concerned?
Yeah, so Bongiwe, it definitely goes very much far. Maybe let me just also give a very practical example. You will remember we have been too much reliant on a passport. For example, in terms of passport stamping. In this particular process, we do not even have to worry about having to stamp the passport. The person's face is the ultimate biometric that becomes a fundamental identifier for that particular individual. So on that particular basis, the system is the one that facilitates the person's movement and no longer much of a discretion in terms of an individual. We still obviously engage the travelers in terms of the immigration questions as to how long are they going to stay in the country, do they have money to sustain themselves, where are they going to be staying. Those are fundamental global based immigration questions that we ask. But in terms of the rest of the other processes, they are being done in the back end and the system is able to do that authorization. So for us, what becomes critical is if the system rejects an individual either because the passport is not valid or either because the person is not the actual person that is carrying the ETA, there is no way that person will then be facilitated in the system. So the system overrides, which used to be one of the biggest challenges that we have actually faced, is no longer applicable in this instance. And of course, on that basis, the authenticity of the person is based on their face, which is the key biometric in this instance.
When it comes then to the piloting that you would have done, just take us through some of what you've been able to see there, but also, is it now rolled out across all the platforms?
Yeah, so basically what we have done, Bongi, we started, remember, during the G20 summit in the past year, around September, October. So during that particular period, we actually put in a pilot, mainly at OR Tambo. We put some at Lanseria, and then we put some at Cape Town International, and of course some at Kinshasa. So we basically started at the airport, and on that basis, we were then able to process the individuals out of those particular countries that were selected for pilot purposes. I mean, China is one of those, India is one of those, and we had to identify these countries where there is a lot of people that comes through into the country for tourism purposes. So on that basis, we can confirm that during the entire period since last year to now, everything has been going very much well. We've been able to deal with all of the other technical challenges that we're able to pick up as we went along, and on that basis, we are very much comfortable that the system is stable. Therefore, after the launch by the president today of the system, the next step is to make sure that we start rolling it out into the rest of the other environments where we operate, mainly in terms of the land ports and ultimately into the seaports, and of course to the rest of the other outstanding airports, as it were. So once we are able to roll it out in the rest of the other ecosystem, more and more countries will be added in terms of the system, and on that basis, we'll completely move out of everything manual and everything is going to be automated. It will also be very much helpful, Bongiwe, to deal with issues of illegal migration, because the system is fairly automated to the extent that when it gives you the days to enter the country, that particular day, those particular days are calculated by the system. And when your days are about to expire, it sends you a message and say you have a few days now remaining in the Republic, you are meant to exit. All of these things put together will definitely assist us to deal with the scourge of corruption, which we know has been very problematic in our space.
All right, before I let you go, let's talk about, the processes of deportation and if there are any updates, because I know at some point there had to be a shutting down of the operations that were currently taking place to try and assist some of those who wanted to return home. But getting the signal that your work continues. So is there any update in that regard from yourselves?
Yeah, maybe the latest we can indicate, as we were also briefing the portfolio committee on Home Affairs yesterday, the latest figures in terms of the repatriations as well as the deportations that we've been able to effect, starting from the 7th or so of June, we talk about over 89,000 individuals that we've been able to process. The majority of them, just over almost 50 plus thousand of those those are the Malawians that we're able to process at Bedbridge border post, followed by the Zimbabweans, and then we have obviously some bit of Mozambicans processed at Libombo, and we also still had the Ghanaians, the Nigerians that were fairly processed at OR Tambo. So all in all, we can say that is the number that we are sitting at, and from where we sit as the Border Management Authority, we continue to deal with those people that come at the port of entry for the purposes of either repatriation or even deportation that we are able to process. In terms of the temporary repatriation center in Musina, as the chairperson of the Interministerial Committee on Migration, Minister Kubai had indicated, there has been a scaling down of operations at that particular environment, and as we continue to do the work, the less and less people that are coming through there now is averaging at around 1,000 or so. We are then able to get them processed and get them out accordingly. So otherwise, everything is going according to plan, Bongiwe.
Appreciate your time, Dr. Michael Masiapato. There is the Commissioner for the Border Management Authority giving us an update on the ETA system, but also, just the developments around the repatriations.